She sat across from me at the little cafe we always went to, the one that had practically become ours over the years. The moment she walked in, I noticed something was different. She fiddled with her hair, twirling it around her finger in that nervous habit of hers. Her smile appeared, but it was shallow. Her lips moved, yet her eyes betrayed her. They didn't shine the way they usually did when she saw me. I knew something was wrong before she even spoke. We'd been together nearly 3 years. It hadn't been flawless. We had our rough patches, like any couple, but nothing that made me think what was coming could even be possible. Then, without hesitation or warning, she looked me straight in the eye and said words that made the entire cafe blur into silence. Asterisk, I went on a date last night with someone else. Asterisk, for a moment, it was like time stopped. My brain lagged behind, struggling to process whether I had heard her correctly, but she didn't leave room for doubt. She kept talking, giving me his name, explaining how they worked together, laughing over dinner, describing it all like she was recounting a casual evening with a friend. But this wasn't an accidental slip. This was deliberate. She wanted me to know. I studied her as she spoke, and what struck me wasn't guilt. It was the lack of it. She wasn't apologizing. If anything, it felt like she was gauging me, as though my reaction was part of an experiment. Maybe she expected me to break down, to demand explanations, to beg for her to stay. Maybe she wanted to see her own worth measured by the depth of my pain. But I didn't give her that. Instead, I calmly picked up my cup, took a slow sip, nodded slightly, and said, Asterisk, thanks for telling me. I hope he treats you better than I did. Asterisk, the look on her face was priceless. Her confidence faltered. That wasn't the scene she had envisioned. She blinked, stunned, her lips parting slightly. Asterisk, wait, that's it. Asterisk, she asked, her voice carrying disbelief. Asterisk, you're not going to yell? You're not going to ask why. Asterisk, I leaned back, shaking my head. The truth was, the pain was sharp and real, but I refused to hand it to her like a gift. I told her simply that I don't fight to stay where I'm not wanted. If she needed to be with someone else, then our relationship had already ended. I just hadn't been informed yet. That landed. I watched as her bravado began to unravel. For the first time that evening, uncertainty flashed in her expression. She stumbled, trying to soften her betrayal, claiming she hadn't meant for it to go that far, that she was confused, that she was just figuring things out. But her words rang hollow. She realized too late that honesty doesn't erase cruelty, and what she framed as brave was nothing more than selfishness. I finished my coffee, stood, and told her, Asterisk, I wish you well. You made your choice. I'm simply honoring it. Asterisk, she froze, and in her eyes, regret began to form, but I didn't stick around to watch it grow. I left her sitting there, caught off guard, with no dramatic scene to feed on. I walked away with my dignity intact, and this time she was the one left behind. Later that evening, I went to her place to collect my things. There wasn't much. I had never let myself sink too deeply into permanence there. I left behind photos, notes, and small gifts, not out of anger, but because I wanted her to feel the emptiness of what I had taken with me, myself. Let her sit with the silence of the space I vacated. Let her remember me not by objects, but by absence. Days turned into weeks. Eventually, she reached out. At first, short texts, then longer emails. Apologies, explanations, please. She claimed it was a mistake, that it hadn't meant anything, that she missed us. I never responded. Not because I held bitterness, but because I found something better than her words could offer. Peace. I turned inward. I picked up old hobbies I had abandoned. Spent time with friends I had let drift away while I was busy centering her. Life filled back in, and with each day, I realized that her absence didn't carve a hole in me. Instead, it made room for calm, a quiet I hadn't known I was missing. Through mutual friends, I later learned that the man she had risked everything for didn't stay. After a few weeks, he disappeared, leaving her with nothing. She had gambled and lost, only realizing the cost when it was too late. Some lessons, I suppose, are only learned the hard way. Looking back, I'm grateful I didn't yell, didn't plead, didn't try to hold on. Sometimes the strongest response isn't anger, It's silence. It's composure. It's walking away with your self-respect unshaken. She thought her confession would shatter me, but my refusal to break became the very thing that changed everything. In the end, she lost a man who truly cared, and I walked away with myself.